let's go to your comedic dimension, and let's start with one of the speeches that Prime Minister Netanyahu made to a joint session of Congress. It wasn't the one in 1996 where he said that it was coming very soon, the end of U.S. aid to Israel, because Israel's a modern, productive, prosperous economy. That was 1996. Right. And then he negotiated with Barack Obama a $38 billion 10-year U.S. aid package to Israel. It's always good to remember history. But he once spoke to a joint session of Congress. He got 29 standing ovations, leading some comedian to say, maybe this should be put in an exercise video for members of Congress every morning. What was your observation on that one?
Well, to paraphrase Shakespeare, they doth applaud too much. I mean, when somebody gets up and applauds every few seconds, it kind of seems fake. It's kind of like getting complimented too much. You start to think it's weird. It's obviously, look, I mean, the Israeli lobby is strong, but it's not based on justice or shared values like people say. It's based on pressure. It's based on fear. And in fact, it's based on also the Israeli lobby has employed for decades Islamophobic tropes to get through to people in Congress and to get through the American public. I think that because it's so fake, right, because it's not based on any sort of values, that it can be changed pretty quickly. And in fact, I've started to learn as a Palestinian that sort of stuff doesn't matter to me anymore. Netanyahu coming and speaking to Congress, I mean, he's wildly more popular in Washington than he is in Israel. And coming and speaking and getting all those standing ovations, that doesn't bother me as a Palestinian anymore. It used to bother me, but it doesn't bother me anymore because as I go to Palestine all the time, I realize that all that really matters is what's happening in Palestine. And what's happening in Palestine are things that the Israelis can't control. First and foremost is us, right? I mean, we talk about back in 1948. If you go back to 1948, the Israelis kicked out lots and lots of Palestinians from what is today Israel. My dad was one of them. He became a refugee in Jordan. And they kicked out about 750,000 Palestinians. However, about 150,000 Palestinians remained in what is today Israel. Now, if those 150,000 Palestinians, if they grew after 69 years at the normal average population growth rate of the world, they should be today about 450 to 500,000 people. However, they are 1.7 million people. All right. We are a demographic threat proudly. And that has been one of our agendas. We don't have weapons. OK, we don't have tanks. We don't have helicopters. But we do have the Palestinian reproductive system is a very, very, very powerful weapon. I always say that they drop bombs and we drop babies. OK. My parents are like sometimes seen as a small family. We're 4 kids. That's a small Arab family, as Ralph knows. That's not a big family. People say when you have 4 kids, people say, what's wrong with you? Why are you only having 4 kids? And I think what's America, 2.1 or whatever, how many kids you're supposed to have? It is different for us. That is how we resist. 9 months after every war in Gaza, the hospitals are full. People are having babies. When people cannot work, when the lights are off, when they don't have any opportunity, when they don't have freedom of movement, well, guess what they do? All right. And so that is something that Israel can't control. In fact, demographics are destiny in Israel. When you look at the Israeli population, the Israeli Jewish population, all right, already 20% of the Israeli population is Palestinian non-Jews. But what happened over the years is that Israel started out as this sort of like European white supremacist sort of thing, but there wasn't enough of them. So then they brought Arab Jews in 49 and 50 from Iraq, Yemen, Tunisia, Morocco, and a lot came from Iran. Well, those people came. Those people don't really fit into the Zionist ideal. And what's happened now after 60 years is that they're reverting to their culture. So a lot of Israelis are Arabs who are Jews who are speaking Arabic in their households now. And they're singing Arabic music at their weddings.
And eating hummus.
And eating hummus. And they're allowed to eat hummus. They're allowed to say hummus belongs to them. All right. The ones from Europe aren't, but they are. And then you have Ethiopian Israelis who are a small amount of the population, but still speaking a lot of their native language. Then you had Israel still didn't have enough people and brought 1 million Russians in the 90s. And they have now come to Israel. And the Israelis told them, look, if you have one grandparent who's Jewish, you can come. And they came, a million of them, because it was the fall of the Soviet Union. Economy was really bad. They came, they got a job in a house. Now they've been in Israel for a generation. Well, guess what they're doing, Ralph? They are building churches now. They're marrying Arab Christians. They are being buried in Arab Christian cemeteries because guess what? A lot of them aren't Jews. They're Russian Orthodox. That's their culture. That's who they are. So this whole identity thing of Israel being a Jewish only state doesn't exist in reality. The land has been Arab for 1,500 years. That is a hard thing to fight against. And as Ralph knows, being Arab is like contagious. All right. Like I always see it all the time in America, when an Arab marries a non-Arab, especially if they marry a white person, the Arab doesn't become more white. All right. The white person becomes one of us. That's the way it works. We're very contagious. They might have been living their nice, peaceful sort of white life, just not worrying about anything. And then they marry one of us and all of a sudden they're dancing in circles. They're kissing other men. They are, find out that they have 35 cousins they never heard of. All of a sudden someone shows up and stays at your house for 3 weeks. I mean, it's different. They become us. And so that happened in Palestine too. The culture is contagious and it's in the land. You can't do anything about it. And Jerusalem, I don't know if you've ever been to Jerusalem, Ralph, but if you go to the old city of Jerusalem, still to this day, after 70 years of Israel and after 50 years of military occupation inside Jerusalem, the old city of Jerusalem is about 90% Arab still. And if you don't want to get cheated doing business in the old city of Jerusalem, well, guess what language you have to speak? Arabic. And that is the culture of the land, all right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And that, I think, is eventually going to win out, and we already see it happening. So if Israel really wants to move forward, and if Israel wants to remain a place where it can say it's a democracy and it can say it's a safe place for Jews, because ironically right now Israel is probably the most dangerous place for Jews on the planet, not the safest, then it has to become a democracy in a secular way. All right. And you will find very quickly that Palestinians don't have a problem with that. Jews are not foreign to us. Israel is what foreign to us, not Jews.